preacher, and my mum's a physiotherapist, and here I find myself at 37 years old. I'm a yoga teacher and a body worker. So it's like, here I am talking about spirituality and talking about fixing people's bodies and minds, you know, getting themselves right with their spirit. That's my thing, that's my bag. Yeah. So my personal desire for this came about, oddly enough, through rejecting my parents' ideologies. I found a very particular part of myself is contrary, and I rebelled against the system. And I found that my lining up with yoga and like indigenous spiritualities really, it resonated with me. It wasn't something that a preacher father and a physio mother would really want for their son as it kind of deviates away from the path. So it was in my youth when, you know, those little strange changes that we all go through arrive in our bodies, you know, like hair in weird places, and our voices do kind of strange things. And it was within that time that I became really aware of a distinct feeling of discomfort in my own body. And I would find myself sitting in chairs in the classroom trying to bend my back and twist randomly. The doctor says, he has a mild scoliosis. You know, maybe some of you recognize or resonate with that. That's an experience you have. But that's just how it was for me. It was also around this time that I found myself existing within a field that, you know, it proved itself to be kind of chronic, but it was depression. Like, I lived in that. My mum called it a fit of the blues. You know, I've since corrected that perception. It was a bit of a misperception on her part. You fast forward a few years, it was 2002. I'm 20 years old, and I find myself leaving Australia, getting on a jet plane and coming over here, finding myself in the middle of Canada. I had no idea what was coming up. You know, I was getting married at 21, I was buying a house, I was doing all these things that I was adulting just right. Thanks very much, it was great, I was succeeding. By the time I was 25, it was amazing. I was finding out what the next big step of my life was going to be. You know what that big step is? It was divorce and total personal collapse. I died inside, you know? It was really interesting because around that same time, I felt in my back, which had always been a problem for me. All of a sudden, it was like, it gripped hard. And all of a sudden, I found what was always uncomfortable became excruciatingly painful as a constant day in, day out experience. So I was stuck. I was 25, turning 26, and I was like, I had nothing. I was done. You know, at first I was like, I was going to try and get myself involved in the church and be back. You know, my parents are Christian, my family's Christian. I'm going to get right with God, man. I'm going to fix up my Christian walk, and I'm going to do that thing. But it didn't take long. The church, man, they dropped the ball. It was really great. They kind of pushed me away by their apathy. It was the greatest gift I've ever been given. You know, the new status of divorced didn't sit too well with my family, and I found that they became an absent family. Even though they're across the sea, they're an absent family. They just weren't there. I was a kid. I was 25 years old and I was collapsing, and my family was not there. You know, and that killed me a bit. But what that did, that provoked something within me. You know, at that point I was in debt, I was in misery, I was in pain, I lost my job, I didn't get out of bed for 6 months. You know, so something had to change. I resolved something in this time that echoed through my whole being. And that was, I need to figure this out for myself. I need to figure this out, as if nobody else has ever told me what to think. What would I know if it was just me out in the field with the trees? And that started a process. That started thoughts bubbling up through my consciousness. I remember when I was 6 years old and that kid told me I was stupid, and it floated up through my mind. I never remembered that, but that's affected me. You know, I could feel the effect of these thoughts that had been buried deep within me, had been how they've been playing out in my life. You know. So, where am I actually? Yeah, so around the time I was 2008, a friend of mine said, "You need yoga." Okay, there's a very tall, beautiful woman saying these things to me. Okay, I'll do that, sure. I'll follow the rules. You invite me to your class, I'll come to your class. And I hated her. I did her first class, I hated her. I said, why are you making me do these things? It's so hard, I'm sweating. You know? I realized something when I started practicing yoga. I started to feel better. And it really affirmed my personal desire to bend and twist myself that had been present since I was in school. You know? It was a world opened up to me. And it was going to get more open. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I knew it was doing good for me. There was a day, and it was in 2010, that direction became really clear. I was a little bit of a creative connoisseur of certain psychedelics in this moment. I'd gone to this festival, I'd gone to Harvest Moon, and I'd intended to take mushrooms and MDMA. That's great, I was going to do the hippie flip. And then what I realized was that other people like to give you other things. So we added some acid and some cannabis into that mix, and it was a really wonderful journey until it turned really intense. You know, it went philosophical and pretty and it's beautiful, but then something happened. I was doubled over in extraordinary distress. I could hear in my head every single conversation, every single experience that I'd gone through that had made me contract or collapse. And this is ancestral too, going back as far as you can go. There was a moment. There was a moment in that distress that something would pop. And all of a sudden everything let go. My body let go. Tension in my body. I didn't poop myself, it's not that kind of letting go. But I stood up straight. In that moment, I stood up straight, and I'd never stood up straight before. I'd always been kind of bent and twisted, and I couldn't shake that. But in that moment, everything let go. And what I could see something that I'd never seen before. I could see a light, and a visible, tangible light emanating out from my body. I could see a visible, tangible light emanating out from every single person that I saw, every single tree that I saw. Everywhere was this light, and I recognized something about this. This is the truth about spirituality. That we are that light. You know, we talk about in yoga, namaste, I bow to that light within you. That was my experience of that, realizing that particularly. So that really shook me, and that broke open something in me that I had never known. Regularly scheduled mind programming resumed after the journey, but I knew something. I knew that I could stand up straight and it was possible. So my practice of yoga was an embodiment of that. I had a direction for it, and it kept on growing. And that took me into sacred relationship. So yoga became less about a postural practice and more about a relating with myself, relating with another, getting messy, getting real. I was given the gift of a friend, a lover, to walk with, who met me in these profound ways and helped me to unpack myself, unpack my mind, unpack my heart, and see it from a whole new perspective. You know, and this was key. This was a huge key to myself, because all of a sudden I got to be real, not just fancy in my postures. I got to be met in my heart, in my mind, in my whole being. You know, and from there, you know, like this has been outworking, and I'm checking time, so I'm running out, so I'm going to hasten a little. But with getting to know me, you know, people ask more questions when they actually take that time. And in that time, I got met and asked questions about why I struggled with certain things. You know, we talk about borderline personality, etc. I just realized in the last day that it's very likely I sit on the autism spectrum, and that's helped me to unpack like my entire history. You know, so it only gets better from that. So, you know, in the speaker's agreement, you know, I had a whole holy shit kind of moment with that whole, like, I might be that. In the speaker's agreement, I said, my story is always evolving. Are you done with your story, or are you still living it? My story is evolving. I'm learning something about myself I never knew before. And it's my head can be on straight, my head, well, mostly anyways. You know, my body and mind can be open, and I can meet people fully. And it was through being given that love that I learned to recognize that I am that love. So thank you so much. Woo!